Everybody, and welcome back to another fun and exciting intermediate math class. Today we're going to be continuing chapter number 3. We'll be doing lesson number 3, and that is found on page 109 in your book. If you want to turn there, page 109. And today we're going to be talking more about adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. If you remember in the last lesson, we talked about that from the number line standpoint. Basically, I asked you, or I showed you how to put all of these problems adding a negative number on the number line. And so we move basically we move the number left and right based on if we were adding and subtracting, based on if it was a positive or negative number. Well, in this lesson, we're going to be doing the same thing, adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers, but this time I'm going to show you how to do it without the number line. I think the number line is important so you can see how it works, but practically it's not going to be very useful. You're not going to stop in the middle of a test or on your homework and draw a number line. That's not very practical. So you need to know how to do this basically in your mind or very quickly on a piece of paper. So we're going to learn just a few little tips, a few little tricks, and a couple little rules, and you'll be doing this in no time. This is not that difficult. You just got to learn the rule. Go ahead and look down here at the screen, and I've got some things written down. And the first thing says sign numbers without the number line. So that's what I told you. Now we're doing it without the help of our little assistant that we used in the last lesson, which was the number line. So how can we do this? There's a couple of different little rules here when adding. The first thing that we want to look at is what if that has the same signs. Like what if it's adding a negative number to another negative number? What if it's adding a positive number to another positive number? Well, you've been doing that your whole lives, but now in algebra, we'll learn some rules that will help you to understand how to do this. Number one, same signs. Add as normal and keep the signs. It's that easy. Add as normal, keep the signs. So if you had negative 3 plus negative 4, all you do is add those two together. 3 plus 4 equals 7. And you would keep the sign. What sign is it? It's a negative sign, so your answer would be negative 7. Now, I mean, we could put that on a number line, right? So we could put, if we start at negative 3, we'll just put that negative 3, and we'll put a few little spaces here. Okay, so yesterday or last class, I showed you here how to put it on negative 3, and then we would move it negative 4 spots or 4 to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so our new number would be right here. Well, what is that number? Well, it's negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7 right there. So we get the same answer if we follow the rules or if we move it on the number line. So you can do either one there. I just feel like it's just a little bit easier to use the, just the mental math there because again, who wants to draw a number line every time they do one of these problems? All right, the next step here, or the next way to solve these is what if we have different signs? Well, if we have different signs, then we're going to subtract the two numbers and keep the sign of the larger number. We're going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. So if we have negative 3 plus positive 4. Okay, so now we have different signs. Notice we have a negative sign and a positive sign. So we subtract. You might say, I can't subtract 4 from 3. Well, you just subtract. You stack it up however you need to. You put the bigger number on top. So you say 4 minus 3, and that gives you 1. Now notice it says that you keep the sign of the larger number. So in other words, which one's bigger, the 3 or the 4? Well, the 4 is bigger. What does the 4 have for a sign? It's positive, so the answer to that one would be positive 1. And again, we could put that on the number line, and I'll do that for you real quick. Again, starting at negative 3, and if we're moving it 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to land at, say, -2, -1, 0, +1 is where we land. Okay, so it works on the number line, but it also works, and I think that it works a lot quicker when you use these two little steps. So, same sign, we're going to add as normal, keep the sign. Different signs, we are going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. Learn those two rules. You're going to need those two rules in algebra, in pre-algebra, for the rest of your time in mathematics. All right, here are some problems. Let's go ahead and do this. So, what do we have here? We have same signs. So what was our rule with same signs? We want to add, see this is the same sign, right? We want to add as normal and keep the sign. All right, so let's go down there and let's just add as normal. 5 plus 7. Just almost like forget the signs right now. Forget that that's a negative and that's a negative. Just take 5 plus 7, okay, and we get 12. Then it says keep the sign. The sign is negative, so the answer would be -12. This next one, we have different signs. Look, so this 8, there's no sign in front of the 8. So what does that mean? That means that there's a positive sign in front of it. We don't always write the positive sign. That's what we call an understood. If you say 8, you mean +8. If you mean -8, then you have to write -8. But if you mean +8, you don't have to write anything because everybody knows, okay, he just said 8, so that's +8. All right, so we have different signs. Look, we have a positive and a negative. So what was the rule when we had different signs? Let's go back up there. Different signs, we are going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. So all we do is say 8 minus 5. We just subtract those and we get 3. Is it a positive or -3? Well, look, we have an 8 and a -5. Which one's bigger, the 8 or the 5? 8 is bigger, okay? And so we would say that would be a +3. And it's that easy. Let's do another one. Same thing going on here. Look, we have a -9 and a +3. Don't forget that is always positive. If there's no sign, it's always positive. So what do? Okay, we have different signs. So we're going to subtract 9 minus 3 and we get 6. Now, is it a positive or -6? We take the sign of the larger. Which one's bigger, 9 or 3? Well, 9 is bigger, so 9 has a negative sign, so that means our answer is going to be -6. All right, now, when we're subtracting, it's very similar process, but we have to do one thing first. So if you notice, it says change to addition. That's step number 2. So we're going to basically do the addition process again. We're going to go back up to these steps, and we're going to repeat these steps up here again. So subtraction, and you're like, your mind is going to get blown right here for just a second, but then you'll see how it works. Subtraction in algebra, there really is no such thing as subtraction in algebra. Subtraction in algebra is just addition. All we do in algebra is combine terms. We just combine. And so what we're doing is we're combining negative numbers with positive numbers. And so there is one little thing that we have to know, though, when we're doing this combination of numbers in algebra. That really the only thing we have to know is this right here. We need to change the sign of the second number. That's the trick. Okay, so if you change the sign of the second number and then you do your addition rules, it's going to work out just fine for you. Let's look at this one. So here we have 9 minus -7. Do you remember on the number line when I told you that if you have a minus, see if you have a minus, it actually it goes the positive way because it's two negative signs together. So here's what we do. We change the sign of the second, right? And we add, okay? Now we're going to follow the addition rules. What are the addition rules? Same signs, so we have +9 plus +7. We just add those together. What's 9 plus 7? That's right, 16. and we keep the sign. Positive 16 would be our answer there. Let's practice one more of those. Let's say we have a negative 9 minus 5, okay? And that 5 would be positive, right? Because I didn't put a sign with it. So what we want to do is we want to change the sign of the second. So that 5 is going to be a negative 5. And then we want to change this to plus. So now we have negative 9 plus 5. Now we go back to our addition rules. What's our addition rules? Our addition rules say when it's the same sign, we just add and keep the sign. So we're just going to add these two numbers. 9 plus 5 equals 14. Our sign is going to be negative. Negative 14 would be the answer there. Let me show you one more thing, and then we'll be done with this video. When combining more than two numbers, so let's say, look at this, we have this whole big thing to combine right here. What you do, here's the trick, is you add all the positive numbers, then all the negative numbers, and then simplify. So watch this. Let's take all of the positive numbers. There's a positive 5, and there's a positive 6. Okay, those are the only positive numbers that I see. Let's combine those. Let's add those together. You're going to see it's like a little magic trick right here. So 5 plus 6 is 11. And then we would take all the negative numbers and we're going to add those to our positive numbers. So let's take the negative numbers. So we have a negative 8, we have a negative 4, and a negative 5. Let's add all those up. 8 plus 4 is 12. 12 plus 5 is 17. Okay? So we have a negative 17 because those were all negatives. So we're going to add that to negative 17. Now we're just going to follow our rules. What are our rules? Well, we're adding different signs. We have a positive 11 and a negative 17. So what do you do when you add different signs? Well, let's go back up to our rules. Our rules say when we have different signs, we're going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger. So let's go back down here and let's subtract 17 minus 11, and that gives us 6. The sign of the larger one, 17 is larger than 11, so that equals negative 6. So that would be our answer is negative 6. Okay? Yeah, so just make sure that you follow those rules. Make sure that you learn those rules. Okay, write them down. You should have written them in your notebook. So now as you're doing your practice, you go back to those rules and you just read those rules every time. Don't go back to the number line anymore. Try to do this in your mind. If you need a piece of paper, that's fine, but just write the formulas out. Don't write the actual number line out in this work. So we're basically transitioning from doing it on a number line to doing it in our head or doing it just on a piece of paper without the number line. Okay, that's all I've got for you. Hope you learned something there. If you missed anything, slide it back, watch it again. We'll see you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.